What if the most dangerous thing in a city wasn't what people could see, but who they trusted? In Freetown, Sierra Leone, where modern life buzzed with energy and secrets hid behind smiles, one man's charm became deadlier than anyone imagined. If you're watching from Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, the USA, or anywhere else in the world, don't forget to subscribe, like, share. Click the link in the description if you want to start a business and leave a comment below. Let us know what you think of this chilling tale. Freetown was a bustling city, alive with sounds of honking cars, street vendors calling out their wares, and music drifting from shops. But beneath its lively surface, fear had taken root. For months now, young women were turning up dead, one after another. No one knew how or why it was happening, but there was always one chilling detail that remained the same. 2 small marks on their necks, like snake bites. Yet no one had ever seen a snake near the victims. It was as if the deaths came out of nowhere, striking silently in the shadows. Panic spread quickly through Freetown. News traveled fast in a place where everyone stayed connected by WhatsApp groups and social media. By morning, word of another death would reach every corner of the city. Mayor Yvonne Okosoye-Obi called for action. She sent teams into the outskirts of town to search for any sign of danger. Snakes, criminals, anything. But they found nothing. Still, the deaths continued, and trust began to fade between neighbors. Mothers warned their daughters not to walk alone at night, even in busy neighborhoods like Congo Town or Lumley Beach. Women clutched their bags tighter during the day and avoided dimly lit streets. Amid all this fear, one man seemed untouched by it all. His name was James. If you asked anyone in Freetown who the most attractive man in the city was, they'd say his name without hesitation. James wasn't just handsome, he was magnetic. Tall and muscular from working construction jobs, his smooth dark skin glistened under the sun, and his piercing eyes made people feel like he could see right through them. Women couldn't help but notice him when he walked down the streets of Aberdeen or passed by the markets in Kissy. They whispered about him, giggled, and blushed whenever he glanced their way. And when he smiled, it felt like the whole world lit up. For them, at least. James had a way of making each woman feel special, like she was the only one who mattered. But behind those dazzling looks and charming words lay something sinister. James didn't care about the fear-gripping Freetown. To him, it was just noise. He moved through the city with confidence, his head held high, always looking for his next target. Women were drawn to him like moths to a flame, whether at the market stalls, coffee shops, or bus stops. What set James apart wasn't just his appearance, it was his voice. Deep and smooth, it carried a calmness that disarmed anyone listening. He spoke slowly, carefully choosing his words to make women feel cherished. "You're different," he'd say, leaning closer. "I've never met anyone like you." Those simple phrases worked every time. Before long, the woman would be completely captivated. Once he had her attention, James took his time reeling her in. He didn't rush. He enjoyed the game too much. When he finally invited her back to his apartment tucked away in an isolated part of Allen Avenue, she'd go willingly, dazzled by his charm. Under the soft glow of fairy lights strung across his balcony, James would work his magic. He was gentle, patient, making her feel like the center of his universe. But as the night wore on, James would ask a strange question, one that sent chills down her spine. "Do you know the difference between a man's strength and a snake?" Confused, she might laugh nervously, thinking it was some kind of joke. But then James would whistle, a low, eerie sound that hung in the air like a warning. That whistle, soft, almost musical, was the moment everything changed. The woman would feel an unease creeping over her, like a shadow passing over the moon. Before she could react, something cold and smooth would brush against her skin. A snake, dark and deadly, would slither out from beneath James' clothes. Paralyzed by fear, the woman wouldn't scream or run. She'd freeze, her breath caught in her throat, as the serpent wrapped itself around her body. Its movements were deliberate, almost playful, as if savoring the hunt. Then, with a swift strike, it bit down on her neck. 2 sharp punctures that left unmistakable marks. The venom worked quickly. Her body would stiffen, trembling uncontrollably as the poison coursed through her veins. Within minutes, she was gone, lifeless. And James, he stood there, watching silently, his face blank, as if he'd done nothing more than swat away a fly. By sunrise, her body would be discovered, sometimes in a quiet alleyway, other times near a bus stop. Each time, the scene was the same: pale skin, lifeless eyes, and those haunting bite marks. The people of Freetown whispered about curses and monsters, but no one suspected James. How could they? He was too charming, too perfect. Then, one day, someone new arrived in Freetown, a woman named Fatmata. Unlike the others, Fatmata wasn't easily impressed. Tall and elegant, with skin that glowed like polished mahogany, she carried herself with a quiet confidence. She had come to visit her aunt who lived in a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of town. From the moment she stepped off the bus, heads turned, not because she flaunted her beauty, but because she radiated strength. It didn't take long for James to notice her. At first glance, Fatmata seemed like any other woman, but when he saw her at the market in Wilkinson Road, something struck him as different. While other women giggled or blushed under his gaze, Fatmata barely acknowledged him. She didn't stare, didn't smile. She simply looked past him, as if he didn't exist. This intrigued James. He wasn't used to being ignored. Most women melted at his feet, eager to bask in his attention. But Fatmata, she acted like he was invisible. To James, this felt less like rejection and more like a challenge. Determined to win her over, he began watching her closely. What he noticed only fueled his fascination. Fatmata moved through the city with purpose, always polite but never overly friendly. She spoke kindly to people, yet kept them at arm's length. There was a mystery about her, an air of independence that made her stand apart. The more James observed her, the more obsessed he became. For the first time in his life, James found himself planning carefully. He couldn't rely on charm alone. Fatmata wasn't like the others. So, he waited for the right moment. One afternoon, he spotted her filling a water bottle at a public tap near Congo Town. Few people were around, and James saw his chance. Walking up to her, he flashed his trademark smile, the one that usually melted hearts. "Let me help you with that," he said smoothly, his voice warm and inviting. Fatmata glanced at him briefly, then returned her focus to the tap. Without missing a beat, she replied, "I'm fine, thank you." Her tone was calm but firm, leaving no room for argument. James hesitated, surprised by her cool demeanor. But instead of backing off, he leaned in closer, determined to break through her defenses. James waited for her to giggle or blush like the others did, but instead, Fatmata simply nodded. "If you insist," she said calmly, stepping back to let him take the water bottle. James felt a flicker of triumph as he lifted it effortlessly, balancing it on his shoulder to show off his strength. As they walked toward her aunt's house in the quiet neighborhood of Allen Avenue, James tried to make small talk. He asked about her family, her time in Freetown, anything to keep the conversation going. But Fatmata remained reserved. Her answers were polite yet brief, giving nothing away. This wasn't what James was used to. Women usually hung onto his every word, eager to impress him. Yet here was Fatmata, acting like he was just another person. Still, James told himself it was only a matter of time. "She's playing hard to get," he thought. "I just need to work a little harder with this one." After that day at the tap, Fatmata stayed on his mind. She wasn't like the other women of Freetown. Most would have melted under his smile, giggling and blushing at his charm. But not Fatmata. She was different. The more distant she remained, the more obsessed James became. He wasn't used to being ignored. It was new, frustrating, and strangely thrilling. Fatmata didn't fall for any of his tricks. She seemed immune to his charm, and it drove him crazy. Day after day, he watched her, when she fetched water, when she strolled through the bustling markets of Congo Town, even when she visited her aunt's small garden outside the city. Fatmata carried herself with a quiet confidence that made her stand out. She didn't seem to care about anyone's opinion, least of all James. She lived her life peacefully, gracefully, and that only made her more attractive to him. Determined to win her over, James began finding excuses to talk to her. At first, it was small gestures, offering to help carry her bags, making casual comments about the weather. But no matter what he did, Fatmata stayed polite yet distant. Her calmness started to unnerve him. One evening, James couldn't take it anymore. He decided he needed to take control of the situation. He couldn't let Fatmata slip through his fingers. He had never failed with a woman before, and he wasn't about to start now. James knew that Fatmata often visited her aunt's modest farm just outside the city limits, where they grew cassava and plantains. So, he decided to wait for her there. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, casting a warm glow over the fields. Leaning against a mango tree, his arms crossed, James kept his eyes fixed on the narrow path leading to the farm. Finally, he saw her. Fatmata walked slowly, her steps steady and graceful. She carried a basket of freshly harvested cassava on her head, her posture straight, her expression calm as ever. As she approached, James stepped forward, blocking her path. "Fatmata," he said, his voice deep and smooth. "You've been avoiding me." Fatmata raised an eyebrow, meeting his gaze without flinching. "I've been doing no such thing, James. I've just been busy." Her response irritated him. James wasn't used to being brushed off like this. He was accustomed to women lighting up at the sight of him, eager for his attention, not treating him like he was invisible. James forced a smile, trying to keep his cool. "You're always so serious," he said, taking a step closer. "Why don't you let me walk with you? We could get to know each other better." Fatmata gave him a long, unreadable look. For a moment, James thought she might actually agree. But then she shook her head, stepping around him. "I'm not interested, James," she said simply. James stood there, stunned. He wasn't sure if he was more shocked or angry. How could she just walk away from him like that? Nobody had ever said no to him like this before. His pride felt bruised, but more than that, his obsession with Fatmata grew even stronger. He couldn't let her slip away so easily. No, she would be his, no matter what it took. As Fatmata walked away, James' eyes darkened. He made a promise to himself right then and there. He would have her, and she wouldn't resist him for long. Long before Fatmata ever set foot in Freetown, her heart had been heavy with grief and anger. Her reason for coming wasn't just to visit her aunt. It was to find answers. A few months earlier, she had lost her closest friend, Kadietu, in one of the mysterious deaths that had shaken nearby towns. The pain of losing Kadietu cut deep. Fatmata made a vow to herself that she would find the person responsible. Kadietu and Fatmata had grown up together, inseparable since childhood. Kadietu was full of life, always laughing and bright. They had shared everything, from their dreams to their deepest secrets. One evening, Kadietu told Fatmata she was seeing someone new, a man she described as tall, handsome, and charming, someone who made her feel like the only woman in the world. But Kadietu never mentioned his name. She only said this new man had something mysterious about him, something she couldn't quite explain. 2 weeks later, Kadietu was found dead, her body lying cold and pale in the streets of Lumley Beach, with strange bite marks on her neck, just like the others. Before coming to Freetown, Fatmata sought the help of a powerful oracle in her hometown. The deaths were too strange, too similar to be the work of an ordinary snake. The oracle was known for seeing beyond the physical world, uncovering hidden truths, and Fatmata hoped she would have answers. The oracle welcomed Fatmata into her small hut, filled with the smell of burning herbs and thick with the energy of the unseen. Fatmata explained everything: Kadietu's mysterious death, the bite marks, the strange man her friend had mentioned. The oracle listened in silence, her eyes closed as if she was seeing things far beyond the walls of her hut. Finally, the oracle opened her eyes and spoke. "There's a man," she said in a low, raspy voice, "whose nature is not like that of ordinary men. He carries a snake within him, a serpent of seduction and death. It is his weapon, his curse. With it, he lures women to his bed, and once they are under his spell, the snake strikes. The venom kills swiftly, leaving only the marks behind." Fatmata felt a chill run through her. She had suspected something dark, but this was beyond anything she had imagined. A snake man able to charm women into their own deaths. It sounded impossible, but the deaths in Freetown were too real, too frequent to ignore. "Is there any way to stop him?" Fatmata asked, her voice steady despite the fear growing inside her. The oracle nodded slowly. "There's a way, but it is dangerous. You must use his weapon against him. The snake responds to a specific sound, a whistle that he uses to summon it. But with the right tool, you can control the snake." The oracle handed Fatmata a small silver flute, no bigger than her hand. It looked simple, but Fatmata could feel the power radiating from it. This was her only chance. But be warned, the oracle continued. He is clever. He will try to seduce you, to make you trust him. You must let him believe that he has won. Only then can you strike. With the flute in hand and a plan forming in her mind, Fatmata set off for Freetown, ready to face the man she believed was behind her friend Kadiatu's death. Inside James' apartment, the flickering light from a small lamp cast soft shadows on the walls. He offered Fatmata a seat and poured her some palm wine, his voice calm and soothing as they talked. Fatmata sipped the drink slowly, her eyes watching him carefully, but no longer with the sharpness of before. James smiled inwardly, knowing the moment was finally his. He moved closer, gently brushing his fingers against her hand, and began to speak in that low, seductive tone he was known for. Fatmata, he said softly, I've been thinking about you. You're different from the others, strong, independent. Fatmata smiled faintly, still relaxed, but James could see the effect his words were having. He leaned in a little closer, his voice now almost a whisper. Do you know the difference between a man's strength and a snake? Fatmata's brows furrowed slightly, confused by the sudden question. She opened her mouth to respond, but before she could say anything, James began to whistle. The sound was soft at first, barely noticeable, but it grew louder, filling the room with an eerie tune. Fatmata shifted in her seat, suddenly uneasy, but it was too late. From the shadows, a dark shape began to stay. Fatmata's eyes widened as she saw it, a snake, long and menacing, slithering out from James' trousers. The cold, smooth scales glistened in the dim light as the creature coiled around her. James watched, his face expressionless, as the snake prepared to deliver its deadly bite. But something was different this time. Though terrified, Fatmata suddenly reached into the folds of her wrapper and pulled out the small white flute the oracle had given her. Without hesitation, she blew into it, producing a sharp, piercing sound that filled the room with strange energy. James' eyes widened in shock as the snake froze mid-strike. It hesitated, confused, its gaze now locked onto Fatmata instead of its usual prey. She blew the flute again, and this time, the snake slowly turned away from her and slithered back toward James. James stumbled backward, fear flashing across his face for the first time. The snake, now under Fatmata's control, coiled tightly around him, tightening its grip. James gasped, struggling for breath as the serpent hovered its fangs near his neck. How did you? James stammered, his voice barely a whisper. Fatmata's face remained calm, her eyes cold and steady. You're not the only one who knows how to control a snake, she said. It's time you paid for your wicked acts. She paused, then added, and remember to say hi to NM before you go. Before James could respond, the snake struck, sinking its fangs into his neck. The venom spread quickly, paralyzing him almost instantly. His body convulsed, his breathing grew shallow, and within moments, life drained out of him. Fatmata stood over him, her expression unreadable, as James' body went still. The snake loosened its grip and slithered away into the darkness, leaving him lifeless on the floor. By morning, the city of Freetown was buzzing with whispers. The villagers gathered in Congo Town Square, their faces filled with shock and disbelief. James, the man they had all admired, lay lifeless in the middle of the square. His body was pale and still. Beside him, the snake, his deadly secret, coiled, its head severed and lifeless. Fatmata stood before the crowd, her face calm but her heart heavy. She had done what she came to do. She had avenged her friend and brought an end to the terror that had haunted the women of Freetown for so long. The city was silent as she spoke, her voice steady and clear. I am not just an ordinary visitor, she said, her eyes scanning the crowd. I came here with a mission, to find the man responsible for my friend Kadiatu's death and to put an end to the killings. James, with all his charm and good looks, was not what he seemed. He was the cause of all the deaths in this city. He used his snake, a serpent hidden within him, to seduce and kill women. The people were stunned. They had never suspected James, the handsome, charming builder who seemed perfect in every way, of being the source of so much pain and misery. For years, he had lived among them, gaining their trust, all while hiding the dark truth behind his smile. They had been blinded by his charm, by his fine looks, never imagining that he was a monster in disguise. Murmurs of disbelief spread through the crowd. Some of the women who had once giggled and blushed in his presence now stood in silence, their faces pale with shock. Others bowed their heads in shame, realizing how close they had come to falling victim to his deadly seduction. But now, the truth was clear. James' reign of terror had come to an end, and the city was free from the darkness that had plagued it for so long. Years passed, and the story of James and his snake became a legend in Freetown. Mothers would tell the tale to their daughters, warning them of the dangers of falling for a man's charm without knowing his heart. The tale of James became a lesson for all, a reminder that not everything beautiful is good and that sometimes danger hides behind the sweetest smile. Fatmata's name became one of honor throughout Sierra Leone. She was spoken of with reverence, her bravery and wisdom celebrated by the people she had saved. She had faced down a monster, outsmarted him, and saved countless women from suffering the same fate as her dear friend Kadietu. Her name was whispered with pride by the women of Freetown, and her story was passed down from generation to generation. As for James, his name was forgotten, buried in the dust of history. No one spoke of him anymore, except as a warning to those who might be tempted to use charm and deceit for evil. The people remembered the darkness he brought, but they would never honor his memory. The city of Freetown thrived once again. The women were safe, and the fear that had gripped the city for so long finally lifted. Life returned to normal, and the people found peace. But the lessons of the past were never forgotten. The memory of what had happened remained a reminder of the strength and wisdom it took to uncover the truth and protect those who were vulnerable. And so, Freetown moved forward, stronger and wiser, carrying the legacy of Fatmata's courage with them into the future. Moral of the story: not everything that glitters is gold, and not every charming smile hides a pure heart. True strength lies in seeing beyond appearances, trusting your instincts, and standing up against deception to protect what is right. This moral underscores the importance of discernment, resilience, and courage in the face of hidden dangers. It reminds us that while beauty and charm may captivate, wisdom and integrity are what truly matter. Subscribe, like, and share this tale to keep the spirit of African folklore alive. Let's inspire others with stories of bravery, wisdom, and justice. Comment below to share your thoughts or suggest more folktales you'd love to see, because every story has a lesson worth passing down.